I'm back yet again breaking down another team's finish. Today I will be breaking down the Philadelphia Phillies on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we are your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you call it these days, at Matthew_Ane. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify, wherever you may listen. It really helps out the show. And if you want a little bit more than what we offer in this 30-minute podcast, check us out on Subtext and become a member of the Diamond Club. You can get started this season with big returns on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. All right. So it's that time of the year. We're actually wrapping up on team reviews. This will be the last week of that. And then we'll get in some hearty, healthy, fantasy baseball. And hopefully at some point, my family lets me finish doing my rankings. And then Dom and I can do a true rankings debate. It's going to be a good time. But I love this time of the year. Going over teams, start talking about free agencies and whatnot. So it's the perfect time to hop in and start talking about things. So let's just jump right into it. So the Philadelphia Phillies obviously were terminated in the playoffs. Had a 95-67 season. Great season for them. Honestly, at least let's say record-wise, right? As somebody watching them all year, it wasn't as fun. When they got cold, they got really cold, and when they were fire, they were lights out. And that's pretty much been the story for the whole season with these guys. They're just very streaky, and also too, they're all just trying to hit home runs, which is kind of frustrating. Which is part of the reason why I think they didn't go as far in the playoffs as they probably could have if they would have played a little bit of small ball, or at least assigned a couple players to play small ball. But that's the thing, though, right? They're built to hit home runs. Between Harper, Turner, Schwarber, Castellanos, Bohm, all just, cranking things out of the park. And, that's what they're kind of doing. And I hope that they change things in 2025. But let's break down. Let's start talking about, okay, what I liked about the season for these players, what I didn't like, free agency, which is the number one topic since it's the title of the show, and kind of like whatever else is going on, right? So let's talk about Alex Bregman, rumored to go to the Philadelphia Phillies. This seems like a likely landing. I'm hearing a lot of talk. I just hope it's not a long contract. He's a little bit on the older side, obviously, with Alex Bregman being 30. I would like to see them maybe, if they do it, maybe only like a 4-year contract. But, I'm not really a fan of the signing. Do I like the signing for Alex Bregman for fantasy? Probably better than I like him for real life baseball. The shorter porch, the team, all that can really kind of bump up Alex Bregman's, fantasy value next year, which, hey, that's the best part of this, right? So if he does go there, there's some value for real baseball. Not so much. I really don't like the signing. And also, too, I'm not going to be super high on Alex Bregman as a whole anyway going into next year. Some of the stats took a giant step back in the underlining aspect of it, like his ex-WOBA and ex-batting average went down in comparison. Like last year, he was doing 351 on the ex-WOBA, and the ex-batting average was 266. You look at 2024, ex-WOBA was about 323, and ex-batting average not atrocious at 262. Slug is down at a 428. Average exit velocity actually was up. Funny enough, he's usually not the best at average exit velocity or creating hard contact at all. But it's one of those things where, he still manages to put up his typical 24 to 26 home runs every year, which, hey, I'm not mad at those results. But, with the counting stats are usually there because he was on a good team as per the Houston Astros, right? So if he does go to the Phillies, it'll be pretty much an even aspect in terms of counting stats, right? Because you have Harper, you have Castellanos, you have Turner, you have Schwarber, guys that are also going to help him create more runs and ribs. So that's all good stuff, positive stuff. But, bat speed has gone down quite a bit, and it's in that territory where, you start seeing guys kind of like give me the heebie-jeebies in terms of that. And what is that next year going to look like for him? Is he actually going to be able to live up to this contract that we're going to get? Or are we on the end return? Alex Bregman has not had a short career. He's been around for actually quite some time, since 2016, almost a decade in the season. Next year will be his ninth year. Um, and he's been a good player for a, pretty much his whole career. I still dislike him because he's a trash can guy. But, as a fantasy manager and a fantasy owner, I'm all about Alex Bregman in those regards. But I don't know how much I'm going to be trusting him. He's going to be lower in my rankings, but still probably in the top 10 or top 12 at the position at third base. But, him coming here is going to move guys out of the roster, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit. And, I hate to see him go because it's going to affect his fantasy value as well. But let's move on. I think I've spent enough, especially since he hasn't been signed there. It's going to be exciting to see where he lands. And let's move on to Bryce Harper, a guy that, you know, I am impressed with. You know, second year removed from Tommy John, and in age 31 season, and has, had a nice season. I got to say, overall, wish I expected a little bit more from him in certain aspects, and we'll get into that. But at the same time, not mad at the season as a whole, right? 550 at bats, 85 runs, 42 doubles, 0 triples, 30 bombs, 87 ribs, 7 stolen bases, 76 walks to 138 strikeouts. That's a really nice counter right there. Batted 285, a 373 OBP, a slug of 525, and an OPS of 898. So, like, as a whole, you really can't be disappointed with his season, right? He played 145 games, only missed about 15. That's great. He did go down for a little bit of an injury, but came back pretty quickly. And, really great and happy with that. Wish the runs and ribbies were a little bit better. The 15 games maybe would have gotten him into the 90s, but like I would have expected about 100 out of this guy. He's the leader of the team, and quite frankly, the best player on the team. I actually also would have expected a little bit more home runs from him. In points leagues, you really weren't disappointed. 42, doubles on top of 30 home runs, and the walk to strikeouts aren't atrocious either. So he did you really good this year, and he's definitely a top 20 player for me. I'm definitely going to be drafting him. I would say probably towards the end of the second round, maybe mid second round. I think there's stronger players both at the position and at, just in general, that I think have just a little bit more of, that consistency. And, Bryce Harper obviously has that ceiling, but him going into his age 32 season, I believe, right? Should be 32. Played his 31 season. So, yeah, going to be 32. I actually just passed happy birthday, October 16th to Bryce Harper. And that's something that you got to take into factor as well with Bryce Harper. Like, okay, you know, are we going to start seeing, more injuries from him? Are we going to start seeing a decline? Probably not as much. I don't really see a decline. And all his underlying stats support what he did this year, if not prove to be better next year, as long as he can stay off the IL and the team can keep it going. So he's just really streaky, and that's part of the thing, right? So like the highs are highs and the lows are really low in those regards. So for me with him, like I said, going to be a great option in the first 2 rounds. I'm definitely not going to steer away from him whatsoever. But you just got to know when he's cold, and when he's hot. So I'm all about Bryce Harper as a whole. 2025 is going to be a great year for him, and I definitely want to move on here. Let's talk about Mr. Trey Turner, another guy. Obviously, he started off the season like a bat out of hell. He was absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, went down to that injury that kept him out for quite some time. Um, you know, I think he missed a good chunk of the season. He only managed to get, sheesh, managed to get how many at bats this year? Managed to play 121 games, which also still 505 at bats. That's pretty impressive. Still being able to get those, but with missing, you know, 39 games, like good for you, man. And when he first started the season, it was just, oh my God, it was incredible. April was ridiculous. 26 runs, 10 doubles, 2 bombs, 9 ribs, 9 stolen bases, batted 346. May he got hurt, but he still kept that heat streak going and batting 286 that month. Then, when he came back in June, at the end of June, he kind of started off a little slow, but then July, he just took off like an animal, hit 10 home runs in that month, and was just monstrous, winning you pretty much every matchup that month. And then slowed down in August, and then kind of kicked it right back up in September. So he was very up and down. throughout the whole season, but I'm not worried about Trey Turner. I feel that this next year is going to be amazing for him. Obviously, he's nowhere near what we were drafting him back in the past at the number one overall fantasy option, but he's definitely a great fantasy option in 2025. I cannot wait to draft the kid, truthfully, for 2025, and that's going to be the deal. So, guys, coming up next, we got a whole bunch of other Phillies players, and I'm super excited to talk about them all. Stay tuned. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when you're shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can help you find the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Select Quotes is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one size fits all policies that can cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor life insurance policies for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. You invest so much time into take care of yourself and be the healthiest, best version of you. Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. If you are in good health, they work with carriers that can help you get the same day coverage for up to $5 million. No medical exams required. Head to selectquotes.com and licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Get your life insurance for you in less than for less at selectquotes.com/locked on. Go to selectquotes.com/locked on today to get started. That's selectquotes.com/locked on. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As the season unfolds, rely on our dynamic content and get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury actions, and a whole lot more. I'm actually reading the wrong script. I apologize. So join us this offseason for all our rankings under the sun, from redraft, dynasty, prospects, so much more. And you're not going to want to miss out. We're coming up with them now. Dom's already, crazy nerdy-ish and is already finishing up his rankings. And I will be starting mine soon. You don't want to miss out. It's what's going to help you get that leg up on that competition going into 2025. So check us out. All right, let's get back into it. Let's start talking some more Phillies here. Let's talk about Kyle Schwarber. Another great season from him, honestly. Um, you can't really get mad at the production. Still hit almost 40 bombs. Exactly what you drafted him for. Did exactly what I thought he was going to do. And in certain categories, better. So let's break it down. 573 at bats, 110 runs, 22 doubles, 38 bombs, 104 ribs, 5 stolen bases, 106 walks to 197 strikeouts, batted 248, OBP of 366, a slug of 485, and an OPS of 851. Now, if you compare this season to the last couple, it's been his best year since 2021. And I'm super excited about that. He was able to take that step forward in the batting average. Last year, we hit 197, but still posted 47 home runs. I'll take the trade off and, take the 9 less home runs for the way better batting average. So he's not an absolute murder, for the whole year in that category. On top of that, still almost hit the 40 home runs and had over 100 runs and ribs. You cannot get mad. Plus chipping in the 5 ribs, 5 stolen bases. You cannot get mad at the season whatsoever. Kyle Schwarber is still an elite fantasy option for 2025. He's definitely going to be one of the top end guys in my outfield. Anywhere from top 15 to top 12. I am super excited to draft him next year. Not scared of that batting average, even if it returns to 216, 220 and he hits me 45 home runs, I won't be mad, but I prefer this kind of season. Kyle Schwarber is still going to be an elite fantasy option going into 2025. Do not miss out and do target him because he's going to push you over the limits, especially in power. So, amen. Let's move on. Let's talk about Mr. Nick Castellanos. And Mr. Nick, had a really slow start to start off 2024. When I say really slow start, I'm pulling it up. If I'm not mistaken, my guy waited like, I believe, a whole 2 months to hit a home run, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. So, am I smoking something here? I guess not. But okay, let me take that back. He took a whole like month to really get going, if not two. So he hit 7 home runs between April and May. I'm thinking of the season before, um, where he had 7 home runs between that, but batted 193 and 229. Then took off for the rest of the season, batting about 276, 275, 275, and 292. He had a great season overall. A little bit of a slow start in the batting average category and home runs. May started to pick it up, and then, like I said, killed it the rest of the way. Castellanos is an elite, fantasy option. You were very disappointed to start off the season last year and probably cursing me because I was telling you to draft him everywhere. But I just knew it was coming. I knew he was going to be fine. You look at the year before and just, hey, he has a little bit of a slow start. Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it 100%. I don't mind it. Nick Castellanos is a guy you're going to want going through the playoffs. He's somebody that will produce once he gets going. He's streaky as well, unfortunately. But for a guy to bat 275 every month, once get going, plus averaging the home run statistics every single month, you really can't get too upset with the guy in those regards because he is performing you week in and week out. Literally 4 home runs through a month from June to September and October. A month. So that's a grand total of 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 home runs over a 4 month span. Finished with 27 home runs on the season. You can't get mad at the production at all, and you can't shy away from it either. Nick Castellanos is somebody that I'm definitely going to be happy walking away with as my OF, borderline low end 2, if not 3. And you're going to walk away happy every single time. I can't wait to see ADP, see if everybody's kind of caught up to where I'm at with him. I was on him going into last year. He was being drafted as an OF, 2, possibly 3 in certain leagues. And hey, when you got him, you walked away with a steal as long as you were patient and were able to kind of hold on to him, which like I did. I actually told you guys to trade for him right before he really kicked off. And if you were managed to acquire him, you were really happy like I did. I did 2 years in a row. I acquired him on a buy low, and boom, I had him everywhere. And then boom, he took off. So it's all about just, capitalizing and being patient with certain pet players. He does the same thing like Francisco Lindor does. Takes a couple months to really get going, and then boom, they're one of the best players in baseball. Not to the level of Lindor, because Lindor was just outrageous, but Castellanos is still fantastic. And somebody just a little bit on the slower starters, but once they get going, they get going. Oh, it's fantastic. It's like the polar opposite of Adrian Gonzalez. But yeah, that's enough on him. Let's talk about Alec Bohm. Um, Alec Bohm seems to be up on the trade block. It looks like they want to move him. It looks like they want to bring in Alex Bregman, and I can understand for certain aspects as to why I would want to trade Alex Bohm and why I wouldn't. For me, I wouldn't. But he's 28 years old, still carries some value, and he's just coming off, in my opinion, a career year, and I would say statistically, definitely a career year. 554 at bats, 62 runs, 44 doubles, 2 triples, 15 bombs, 97 ribs, 5 stolen bases, 40 walks to 86 strikeouts, batted 280, 332 OBP. I mean, a slug of 448 and an OPS of 779. He played most of the season, missed about 17 games. I don't think it would have made too much of a difference in his run production, only because of where he hits in the lineup. You would have liked more, obviously, but, how high can he get unless there's a boatload of injuries? And when the injuries came, he did capitalize, and when he was put into that position, but it wasn't enough. So at that point, it's a matter of who's hitting behind him that's really going to be able to drive him home. And, if he does go to a different team, I think it elevates him in his fantasy value depending on where he lands. As for like, what do I think is, potential is for next year in terms of home run numbers? I think 15 to 20 is a fair expectation. The batting average, I think, is pretty consistent. Since 2022, he's batted 280, 274, 280. You can pretty much count on that. And the ribs are there. He doesn't leave too many guys on base when there's players on base. So he does a real good job at that. And he's even good for, points leagues specifically, because I think he's a better points league than almost Roto head to head because of the doubles and walk numbers. He's not killing you in those regards. You're not going to get too many negative days from him, which is exactly what we want, and probably super value in there. And I think he'll go much higher in points leagues than he will in roto and head-to-head leagues. But Alec Bohm is, depending on where he lands, could be very valuable. Coming up next, we're going to cover, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Andrew Painter, and will we even see Andrew Painter in 2025? You'll find out that coming up next. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place your bets all in one place. So when you have a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page. You can place all your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And guys, make that $5 bet count, right? Let's bet against those Giants, unfortunately. And, Daniel Jones can't seem to throw a pass without throwing an interception. So, bet the low on him at all costs. And you're going to do great. And honestly, for his rushing yards, I'd bet the over because that dude just only needs a little bit of room, and he's going to get you those rushing yards. It's a quick way to make that $5 count and get that $150 bonus. FanDuel, official betting partner of the NFL. All right, let's get back into it. This latter half of the show, I am super excited. And like I promised, we are going to be talking about Mr. Zach Wheeler. Had a fantastic season, and, I am pretty happy with it. I just look at it like this. He should have been drafted a lot higher, but I can understand why. This year, he's definitely going to be a top 5 arm for me. I think I had him at like 10, underestimated him a little bit. Overestimated a lot of other guys too, but that happens every year. But I think Mr. Consistent here over the last couple of years has earned his right to be, a top 5, if not top 3 arm, in my opinion, as you start looking at his stats, right? Pitched all 32 games, pitched about 200 innings, had 224 strikeouts, had a 2.57 ERA with a sub 1 whip at 0.95. Fantastic season from him overall. Really, really impressed that he's still this good. 34 years old. It's the prime pitching age, in my opinion. And he doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. His fastball's still zipping at 95 miles an hour. His batting average is a 1.99. xERA is a 2.81. He's really not giving up hard contact at all because his average exit velocity is 86.5 miles an hour. Getting guys to chase almost 33.8% of the time, which is incredibly good. Getting guys to whiff about 27.5% of the time, getting the strikeout 28.5% of the time, not really walking guys, only at 6.6% of the time. And he's not giving up a lot of hard contact, really only giving up about 33.6% of the time. Would like to see a little bit more ground balls produced, but I can't get mad at 43% of the time. But if you can get that up just even a little bit more, like up to 50% of the time, it's going to just take his game to a whole nother level. He really, really, really leaned in on his four-seam fastball, which was super successful this year. Had a 209 batting average on it. You look at his sinker, which was thrown 19% of the time. Had a batting average of 189. And even that sweeper that he mixes in here and there had a batting average of 152. Threw that about 12 times, 12% of the time. And then 10% of the time still throws in that curveball. And those 4 pitches are over 20% for put away. So he's really finding a way to get mixed things in and doing his thing. And then he throws in these 2 other pitches, a cutter and a split finger, just to get the put away and throw guys off with his pitch mix. He really is an intelligent pitcher. And Zach Wheeler showed it all season long. And quite honestly, is going to be fantastic for 2025. The only thing that could get in his way is injury. And, he's been a picture of health these last couple of years. I don't want to jinx him. Anybody can get injured. But Zach Wheeler seems to be one of the safer options going into 2025. And I'm going to be, like I said, drafting him as a top 3, if not top 5 overall pitcher. I cannot wait to see where his ADP is. I don't even think I'm going to be able to whiff him. He might be going as a top 2 pitcher. We'll see. Let's talk about Mr. Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola, somebody that oh, wow, I am all over the place. I am missing guys. Aaron Nola here. There we go. He had a good season. Not my favorite season, but a good season, right? Pitched 199 innings and had 197 strikeouts, had a 3.57 ERA with a whip of 119. Now, this is a little bit on the like other year side, but I would have expected a little bit better. But I'm not mad. You definitely got a return on investment. You didn't have to pay, a top 12 pick in a lot of leagues. He was going like 13, which means you could have got him as SP2, depending on the league size. And even if you walked away with as him as your one, you were able to get guys in two that finished as ones, and you walked away with a fantastic punch if you double tapped him in terms of making him and another like SP2, like a Cole Reagans as your 1-2 punch. You definitely were not upset this season. Nola was good, but he did have his blow up games. He's always that one inning, and then he's super elite for the rest of it, but does affect his ERA for the whole game, unfortunately. But Nola's still a fantastic pitcher. Only 31 years old, going to be 32 this year going into 2025. I don't see why we can't draft him as highly. I think he's going to be a borderline SP1, if not SP2. I think is where I'll feel a little bit more comfortable with him. But Aaron Nola, I'm excited to have him next year. I'm excited to, have him as a pitcher on my team. It's just a matter of, you know, is this going to be one of those cases where we see the every other year where he just kind of tinkers a little too much, and we're upset with, you know, his performance again? We shall see. I actually didn't mention this kid, but we need to talk about him. Christopher Sanchez signed himself a nice deal this year, got a nice extension, and had a really good season, I might add, too. He's somebody I'm definitely going to be drafting as a top 40 pitcher. And depending on how my rankings fall, he might even fall into the top 36. But let's talk about him, right? 181 innings pitched, 153 strikeouts, 3.32 ERA, and a whip of 1.24, which I wish was a little bit lower, but it is what it is. The previous year, he had a 104. I think we'll probably see like a 114, which I won't be too upset with. Now, you know, he only missed one start this year. Did really well. Took advantage of it, and hence why he earned the, you know, the contract extension and whatnot. I think he'll be able to get to about like a K per nine, if not right under it. Whereas like this year, it's about 30 deficit, and that's okay. I that's why I think he's going to be more on towards the lower end, right? So I said 36 to 40, where he may not have the over K per nine aspect to it, where you're just like, okay, um, I'm kind of all about like getting the guys that are higher strikeout at the top of the draft, and then him, good SP 3-4 kind of action, where he has the potential to be at least a K per nine, still keep the statistical numbers down at the ERA and things like that, and be a good pitcher overall. And that's kind of what you kind of want as a pitcher 3-4 kind of action with Christopher Sanchez. Kind of really happy about it in those regards. So I'm definitely looking to draft him like that. But you know what? Let's talk about it real quick. Andrew Painter. Andrew Painter. Will we see him next year? Maybe at some point. So Andrew Painter's coming off Tommy John's. Finally was able to pitch, I think in the fall league, and he's doing, from everything I'm reading from when he had the opportunity to pitch, look real good. Yeah, Arizona fall league. He's playing right now. So he's pitched about 15 innings. Has about 18 strikeouts already, and has a 2.30 ERA with a .089 WHIP. Dude's fantastic. I love Andrew Painter. He's my favorite pitching prospect for the last couple years. I've been waiting for this kid to get a call. Really disappointed when he obviously had Tommy John. So I don't think he's going to make the opening day lineup. We may see him down in spring, but possibly not. I think if anything, he'll be a mid-year call-up, like, probably around like mid-June-ish, and we're going to be happy. But we'll be on an innings limit. I can totally tell you that. You look at how many innings he's pitched in his career, and he's pitched a grand total of 103 innings in one season in 2022, and 2023 didn't really even get a chance to do anything, unfortunately. So, I think they'll be very cautious on it. Maybe only get about like 90, 95 innings at most. So you may see him a little bit, get sent back down, like a cup of coffee, like we saw with Yuri Perez, and then come back up again, and then probably finish out the year. And then as they make that playoff push, that'll determine when he gets that call, because they're probably going to want to utilize him in the playoffs more than they are in the regular season, depending on how the team's doing. But Andrew Painter, I think when he's up, it's going to be fantastic. If you don't know much about Andrew Painter, let me tell you too, like about how ridiculous this kid is. His pitching movement is just bonkers. So like, you'll be happy if like you see a ball move just like a hair in terms of movement, and like you say, oh, okay, it's got good movement, but his not just moves, like right, like he has way more movement on his pitches than most pitchers in the league, but also too he can put it in so many different directions, right? So like if he wants to play with you a little bit, he can make it go up, he can make it go down, he can make it go left, he can make it go right, whatever he wants with his fastball or any pitch to make it go in his full control. He has one of the best controls in all of minor league baseball. So Andrew Painter, when he does get the call, he's going to be somebody you want to rush out there and get immediately, if not stash, as we get closer to not only the Super 2, but also to that June mark if he isn't up around after Super 2. Because I'm telling you, he could be the difference maker for you going down the stretch of whether you have an elite pitcher in your arsenal. Andrew Painter could be that guy right out the gate. I really wouldn't be surprised with that Yuri Perez kind of effect. So do not sleep on him next year. He gets the call. We're going to talk about it. You're going to want to join the subtext to get that alert for everybody else. But guys, thank you so much for being with me today. Really had a good time breaking down the Phils. Not my favorite, not my home team, but definitely one of my favorite teams, being that I live so close to the city. It's a great time always watching them. So guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do all those wonderful things to share this podcast and help us grow. And when you're done checking us out, because we're your first listen each and every day, check out my boy Sully over at Locked On MLB. Covers baseball as an entirety, as as a whole, and really does a great job covering the whole league. So check him out. With that being said, guys, peace out.